Excellent.
Welcome to this week's story. Live from Benoni.
That's right.
Edat Beit Shalom.
No one's watching it, so it's not too embarrassing.
There's some people that are logging in later. Oh, yes. But don't worry, we're not going to edit that part out. Alright, let's say that blessing. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan haTorah. Amen.
Okay.
Right. Ezekiel. To tell us people on the group again, right? That's his, I'm making a lot of noise from everything. Alright. Okay, like we said, chapter 15 is sort of the intro to 16 and 17, where we're basically dealing with the couple of different parables or allegories. So let me come back to 15 after 16. Okay. Chapter 16, verse 1. The word of Adonai came to me, human being, make Yerushalayim realize how disgusting your practices are. Say that Adonai Elohim is telling Yerushalayim, by origin and birth, you are in the land of the Canaanite. Your father was an Amorite and your mother was a Hittite. Stop there. What's he talking about? The birth of Israel is in, your mother was an Amorite and your father was an Amorite and your mother was a Hittite.
I was trying to understand, is he talking about the birth of Israel as a name, like when they got into the promised land?
Let's read a little further, think about it. As for your birth, on that day you were born, nobody cut your umbilical cord, washed you in water to clean you off, rubbed salt on you, or wrapped you in a cloth. No one seeing you had any pity on you and to do any of these things for you. No one had any compassion on you. Instead, you were thrown into the open field in your own filth on the day you were born. Okay, so that's God's giving you something that should have happened at the time of your birth. Okay, let's look at your Amorite and your Hittite. What is he talking about?
There were people in the land of Canaan.
In the land of Canaan. So he's making an illusion at the time when you came into the land. Okay, not necessarily the birth of the spiritual house of Israel. When did that happen? Where?
Jacob.
Well, we would say the name came in from there, but where did Jacob get the covenant from?
Abraham.
Okay, so it starts really with Abraham, and then we say, okay, out of Abraham we're going to make this, right? And we can make the illusion, but was Abraham Amorite?
No.
No, where did he come from? Mesopotamia, okay? They call him a Chasdim or a Chaldean in many cases, and it's funny, it's the same thing as Babylonian. They call them the people of the Chasdim, okay? So as the Chaldeans come into play, we know that they can't be talking about this. So when he comes into the land, in the place of the Amorite and the Hittite, okay? They were brought in, they were supposed to be cleaned up, they were supposed to be loved, they were supposed to go into this thing, and maybe it's making an illusion of just as I got you into the land and you started to take, you came in, the birthing process or giving birth was at which time really when they came into the land? Who was it that brought them into the world, into the land? Joshua. And when they came into Joshua, oh, you got front seat props, man. When they came in here with Joshua, all right, and he came in and they were supposed to prep it. How did they prep it? What did he say? What did they do?
They washed it, they rubbed it in salt, and then they wrapped it in a clean cloth.
Salt. What else? What other covenant idea do we have with salt coming into the land?
The marriage covenant and...
Yeah, it's part of it, but it's a covenant of loyalty with the priests, right? It's supposed to be preserved, it's supposed to be cleansing, just like they would have had the baby with salt, the baby would have been clean because of the salt. Clear its way as filth, okay? But instead of being cleaned, it kind of gets pushed to the side. Why?
Because of its abominations as a nation.
Well, because this one is seemingly unwanted because it's a mingled Muslim stuff and it's still dirty, it's still unclean. Alright, so God's giving a picture here of when you came in, this is what should have happened to you, but again, because of what they did, it didn't happen in a sense, okay? Verse 6. I passed by and saw you there, wallowing in your own blood, as if you lay in the blood. I said to you, live. Yes, I said to you, as you lay in your blood, live. Alright? Blood is clean or unclean according to Torah?
Unclean.
Unclean. So in your uncleanliness I came to you and I still brought you further into life. If it wasn't for God, this nation would have disappeared again. In the time of Judges, more than likely. This is maybe the illustration that he's talking about. I will increase your numbers just like the plants growing in the field, and you did increase, you developed, you reached puberty, your breasts appeared and your hair grew long, but you were naked and exposed. Your nakedness,
Shame.
okay, you came into place, not just shame, but your shame, right? So you came into a place where you should have been you started to come mature. Again, I passed you, looked at you, and saw that the time had come, a time for love. So I spread my cloak over you to cover your private parts and entered into covenant with you. It says Adonai Elohim, and you became mine. Then I bathed you in water, washed the blood off you, and anointed you with oil. I also clothed you with embroidered gown, gave you fine leather sandals to wear, put in fine linen headband on your head, and covered you with silk. I gave you jewelry to wear, bracelets for your hands, a necklace for your neck, a ring for your nose, earrings for your ears, a beautiful crown on your head. Thus you were decked out in gold and silver. Your clothing was of fine linen, silk, and richly embroidered cloth. You ate the finest flour, honey, and olive oil. You grew increasingly beautiful. You were fit to be a queen. Your fame spread among the nations because of your beauty, because it was perfect, due to my having bestowed my own splendor on you, says Adonai Elohim. Right. So there's at least 400 bajillion schmillion uses of imagery there. You're going to unpack that for me. Okay? Let's see. Right? First thing, what does he do to her?
It's his cloak.
He covers her with a cloak. What does that tell you scripturally?
It's
Authorities and given to her.
Not just authority, but from a wedding perspective. Thinking of
She's
prodigal son.
not under his covering, under his.
What's Vuyo's favorite portion? Ruth. He brought a covering over. She covered his feet. It was a picture of coming into that covering, right? He says, I will cover you. Picture of Messiah. What does he cover you with?
His blood.
His blood, and as well as you are cloaked in his righteousness. Okay, so you come into as a bride. Okay, what else? What's next? Went into covenant. Says Adonai Elohim, and you became mine. Then I bathed you with water. What is water? Tell you about?
Cleansing.
Okay, it's about cleansing. Could be immersion, talking about a mikvah. All right. Washed the blood off you, took away your uncleanliness, anointed you with oil. But in the biblical custom, any sort of anointing that happens, normally in this case, is dealing with perfume.
Sure.
Okay? But remember, what else do we do if we look at a nation that's been anointed?
That's it apart.
Right. Before what?
For him.
Right?
To serve his purpose.
Because he is
Yes.
set apart.
Yes.
Okay?
Because
You're
he's
starting to see the imagery of they cleansed themselves. He covered them with clouds, sitting at the base of Mount Sinai. They were covered with clouds, they washed their clothes, they went into covenant. They were anointed to become a kingdom of priests. You see where he's going? Okay? I also clothed you with an embroidered gown, gave you fine leather sandals to wear. What's the point? Okay, you get covered with now not only just a gown, but an embroidered gown. As per your status, as you are coming in as his king, you become part of his, right, his royalty. He gave you fine leather sandals. What is it about your sandals that you need to pay attention to? Your halacha. Okay? And again, when you start talking about Sinai and things like that, he says, with the 40 years of wandering,
Your sandals did not fall.
sandals never wore. Okay? And it's funny, it's one of those things when you look at the high priest garments. He gets clothing, Okay, and there's going to be another illustration that's going to go on here, is that you're also looking at what type of shoes did the high priest wear?
Sandals.
Describes his feet as something that comes in peace.
Yeah,
Like the armor of God. Are you guys with me?
Mm-hmm.
Breastplate of? Right. Belt of? Right. That belt would cover the heart. Okay? Sorry. And you would go into these sort of coverings. Okay? So we talk about your halakha. He put on fine linen headband on your head and covered you with silk. I gave you jewelry to wear. So we've got a headband, a turban to cover your head, covered you with silk, and jewelry to wear. What is it about the jewelry?
Isn't that the gifts of the bride?
It gives to the spirit, it gives to the bride. The very part of the bride price that you would wear and you would come in. Remember when they went up to, when Eliezer saw which matriarch? Eliezer went to go find a bride for which patriarch? Isaac, right? So Rebecca, as soon as she came in, what did he do with her? After camels and all those things?
Carry jewelry.
Yeah, adorned her with jewelry, bracelets, all those things, gifts. This is part of your dowry. This is part of a gift from the groomsmen as well as, okay? Bracelets for your hands, a necklace for your neck, a ring for your nose, earrings for your ears, a beautiful crown for your head. Now you've already been given a turban, right? Or a covering. Word being eaten alive. You've been given a turban. Now you have a crown. What does that sound like?
It sounds like. It sounds like.
First, go back.
what crown? Would it be the diadem and the other one?
Go back. Sinai. There was someone there who made a golden calf.
Oh, the
High priestly garment. What did he have written on the crown?
something about king.
No. Kadosh.
Okay,
Kadosh
it's
le
set
Adonai.
apart for,
Kadosh le Yud Vav. Okay? So he has that embroidered on his head, holy unto the Lord. He's already been anointed, he's already been set apart, and he's also, if you're looking at a bride, taking in a position as a queen. Okay? Thus you were decked in gold and silver. What does gold and silver represent?
It was redemption and righteousness.
Righteousness and redemption. You have been redeemed and covered by his righteousness. Right? Just clothing of fine linen. What's fine linen used for?
What embalming?
No.
I'm purchasing the priestly garments out of fine linen.
Priestly garments again. Silk, richly embroidered cloth. You ate the finest flour, honey, and olive oil. Flour? Think of a priest. Remember, this is Ezekiel.
It's the
Offering with?
fine flour and olive.
Right. It's part of the grain offerings, right, honey? What does honey represent to a priest?
Your word will be as sweet as honey.
Right, and olive oil?
The anointing.
Yeah.
And the lamps.
Right, like the menorah. You grew increasingly beautiful. You were fit to be a queen. Your fame spread across the nations because of your beauty. Everything that had been bestowed, everything that was covering her shame, her nakedness, her origins, in a sense. Why were you chosen? Listen to me, guys. Sometimes we get into a place where you started out in life might necessarily not be where you are now. And in many cases we can say hallelujah, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. You can look back and people look at you now and they look at what you have now. All right, let's use me so I don't put the spotlight on anybody. How many of you have only known me since we've lived here? Most of you, right? How many of you think we come from money? Be honest. Right. It's obvious, right? You're 25 years old, you can't walk in here and you buy a place like that. You would be misinformed. I slept on a camping stretcher that belonged to my grandparents, using a recliner cushion as a mattress for maybe close on 4 years, because my parents couldn't afford a bed. My dad lent money from loan shops, pawn shops, because we were looking after family. My point is this: sometimes where God gets you to, and He gives you stuff for a specific reason, to cover up the shame of where you think you come from. When people look at you now and they go, look, you're a fairly well together, put together guy, but they don't really know your origins. Who was the one who picked you up, dusted you off, washed you clean, covered you, taught you, trained you, blessed you, gave you this stuff, gave you a new life, immersed you, anointed you, covered you in righteousness and redemption, brought them up and put them in before people, and then through His love and grace and His prosperity, because of His position and your position in Him, people look at you and go, no, you're spoiled for this not. You don't really know anything. So don't get stuck into the place where you think this is about you and this position is all about you. Remember where you come from. Remember those lessons that you learned. And remember, you're not special because you think you're special and you have now a right. This stuff can disappear in a heartbeat. It really can. You need to make sure that you don't put any stock in stuff that is going to disappear one day. I can tell you honestly now that we probably should have lost this house at least 7 times already. And I've only been in it 10 years. Should have sold this to cover costs and debt and stuff. Probably 7 times already. The only reason we haven't is because God always answers prayers at 99.
Mhm.
And He says, there's work to be done here. I gave you this house for a purpose. Don't forget it. It can disappear at any time. Don't think this is you. Don't identify yourself with stuff. This is a tool to reach my kingdom, to expand my kingdom, to reach people. This is not... Okay? So again, He picks him up, He dusts him off, He brings him to this place, you put you all together, you've got your head screwed on right for the first time in your life. Don't think for a second you can pat yourself in the back and go, yeah, that's all me. Abba was there when you had to cover your shame and wash you clean. Abba was there when you were crying out in the darkness and you said, I don't want to be that guy anymore. Just because He changed you doesn't give you license to go and make new sense or the same sense in a completely new scope of things, because now all of a sudden you've got bling on you. Righteousness and redemption were gifts. Linen garments were gifts. Covering was a gift, but all came with alignment of how you relate to your King. If you miss that part, all that stuff is nothing. Your office, who you are, is all in alignment of who He is. And if you walk away from Him, hear what happens when we become arrogant. But you put your trust in your own beauty and began prostituting yourselves because of your fame, soliciting everyone passing by and accepting all comers. So someone told you you were pretty, someone told you you're fantastic, someone told you you're gifted, someone told you this, and you start pandering to the people and you're saying, I can do for you, I can do for you, what you really need is me, instead of giving them God. What do people do when they go for job interviews? Think about it. What are you told to do by the guy who's trying to get you a job?
He sold himself.
You put yourself out there. What I can do. You took your clothes and you used them to decorate with bright colors the high places you made for yourself. There you continue prostituting yourself. Such things shouldn't happen, and in future they won't. You also took your beautiful jewels made of my gold and my silver. You took my righteousness and my redemption, and you made it about you, which I had given you, and made for yourself male images, which you continue to prostitute yourself. started to worship the gold. You took your embroidered clothing and covered them, and you set my olive oil and my incense in front of them. You started praying to the coverings. And you took my food which I had given you, my fine flour, my olive oil, and my honey, that I had given you to eat, and set it in front of you to be a pleasing aroma. Where does Torah talk about being a pleasant aroma?
Offerings is
It's the offerings, it's the sacrifice. And what is it about the pleasing aroma? Is it the lamb on the fire?
no, it's the physical action and the inward meaning to get it there.
Right, it's the heart behind the action. I'm giving you the first of, I'm giving you my best, I'm giving you what I recognize. What is the biggest thing about giving of your first fruits, giving the first of your flock, the firstborn, and every 10th thereafter? What is the point of doing that?
To remember where you got that from.
To remember where it comes from. Had it not been for God, I wouldn't have 2. Now I have 10. He asked for 1. He leaves you with 9. The next come. You have 20 when you started out with 3. And so we go on. To give the best of is to acknowledge again that I give the best because God is the best. That's the pleasing aroma. The honey, the olive oil and stuff is literally the sustenance for the priest plus the meat. That is how it was, says Adonai Elohim. Moreover, your sons and daughters whom you bore me, you took them and you took and sacrificed for them to devour. Were these fornications of yours a casual matter? Killing my children, handing them over and setting them apart for these idols? Making them holy for that purpose. Think about it. If you choose, you come into the kingdom, you take your immersion casually. Or maybe not so casual when you're there, but after maybe 5 years or 3 years or whatever, you start to wonder about why you actually did stuff. You take it and then you think of God's righteousness and His redemption and that you were grateful for and His covering of clothes and all the rest of it. And you start thinking, well, no, actually it's about me. I know a lot. And you start building your own kingdom. It's sticking a church mentality. You start building a ministry that's about you. You start selling yourself to people, and then the children whom you save or whom you bear, you don't give back to the Father, you keep for yourself. Those are set apart for destruction. Is you not acknowledging where life comes from. One day you might have the privilege of having kids. You might have to sit there and look at them and go, okay, where did I come from? Where do I come from? For what purpose were they given to me? I'll ask you the same about your life. Why did God choose you to be born again? Why did God give you the opportunity of His Son's death? Why did God give you the opportunity and the privilege of being called righteous and redeemed by His blood? Is it so that you can go and become like the world, demanding whatever you want and how you want it, when you want it, breaking everything that He holds dear? Ezekiel might think so. In all your disgusting practices and your fornications, you never remember the condition you were in when you were young, naked, exposed, and wallowing in your own blood. So after all this wickedness of yours, woe to you, says Adonai Elohim. You know, that's a funny thing. Adonai Elohim, where does Elohim pop up most? Yeah, in Genesis. If you don't understand where you were when I created you, how are you going to understand it when I picked you up and I made you? Did I not save you from yourself? Did I not create you for this purpose? You built platforms and made yourself high places in every open space. You built high places at every street corner, turning your beauty into an abomination, spreading your legs for every passerby, and multiplying your acts of fornication. You had sex with big-membered Egyptian neighbors and engaged in fornication over and over just to provoke me. So now I have stretched out my hand over you. Remember, stretching out his hand is normally a Pesach imagery. Diminished your ration of food and put you at the mercy of those who hate you. The daughters of Philistine who find your lewd behavior revolting. Now let's put that into context a little bit. The Philistines, were they the most high and proper and kosher people? No. How bad has it got that a Philistine looks at you and he goes, wow, you've lost the plot? When the world looks in and he knows a little bit about your God and looks at you and it's all about you and your ministry. Or the fact that you say you keep Torah but you don't. You were supposed to respect your God? Wow. Is this how you reflect your God? Even I know that's wrong. They haven't taken that step. Still unsatisfied, you acted like a whore. These are lovely words, guys. So bear with me. I'm trying to stay upbeat as possible. Also with all the people of Ashur, Assyria. Yes, you fornicated with them and were still not satisfied. You multiplied your acts with the fornication in the land of the traders, the Chasdim, but you weren't satisfied. You are so weak-willed, said Adonai Elohim. You do all these things behaving like a shameless whore, building your platforms on every street corner, making your high places in every open space. And yet you aren't like a whore, because you scorn getting paid. That's a drop the mic moment and walk away. Even prostitutes get a fee. You don't even get paid. You can't even want to. You're not even prostituting properly. And they understand what we're looking at them going, there's something desperately wrong here. Look at the people he's mentioned already. Egypt, Assyria, Chaldeans. 1 Kings 3 talks about Solomon, making trade alliances and marrying the daughter of Egypt. Assyria, Menachem, 2 Kings 15 verses 17. We talk about again Egypt dealing with Hosea, 2 Kings 17. The Chaldean traders, Hezekiah talks from 2 Kings 20. Comes again with Babylon and Nebuchadnezzar later. He's taking you down a timeline. King of the king. When you were adorned with beauty and you're supposed to reflect me, all you did was pander yourself so you could sell your wares. Solomon had that many wives purely because of trade routes. Now, is God going to expand your kingdom, or should you expand your kingdom, or bring your whole place into uncleanliness just so that you can hold on to your kingdom? Let me remind you, this was the wisest man on earth. He knew a lot about a lot, but somehow blinded to a spiritual reality. Isn't it funny that in the New Testament, in the Brit Chadashah, that you sit down and you see Yeshua says, oh, how you have kept this from the wise. You see, when he commands you to be like children, sometimes you just need to think like a child. If Daddy said he was going to go to the shop and come back, Daddy was coming back. If God said he's going away and he's coming back, he's coming back. Don't have to get stuck in amillennialism, premillennialism, pre-trib, mid-trib, post-trib. Have discussions about whether you believe when and what resurrection or what type of body you're going to have when the resurrection happens. What's the order of recreation going to be? All little kid knows is Daddy coming back and I might get a sweet. If you get so stuck in the theology of stuff, or in how you're going to plan your life according to it, you miss the point of it. Is the child happy or sad when daddy comes?
Okay.
Hopefully. Daddy, what did you bring me?
You wait till your father gets up.
So what should your response be? But what is our normal response when we let life get stuck in the way of everything? I haven't done this, I haven't done that. Oh, but you can't come now because I haven't done this, I haven't done that, I haven't achieved this, I haven't paid this, I haven't done that, but I haven't been to Mauritius yet. She needs to stay another week or so. A child does not care, simply wants his father back. Because when daddy's home, everything seems to be okay. He's going to kiss the boo-boos and hug me, and I'm going to be able to sit on his lap, and no matter how bad I hurt because I scraped my knee and fell, I know when daddy gets home, everything's going to be better. Don't get stuck in your life so much that you miss the point of his coming back.
And what Daddy does is always the best, and that what Daddy does is good. Daddy does is wonderful.
Amen. But we get stuck in our own kingdoms, our own plannings, our own stuff, and eventually we're selling our children and we don't even know how we got it. Be careful. Here is a wife who commits adultery, who goes to bed with strangers instead of a husband, but also instead of receiving gifts like every other prostitute, you give gifts to all your lovers. You bribe them to come to you from all over the place and have sex with you. You are the opposite of other women. You solicit the fornication. You aren't solicited. You pay them. They don't pay you. You're the opposite. All right? You all listen to the word of Adonai. Adonai Elohim says, because your filth has been poured out and your privates exposed through the acts of fornication with your lovers, and because of the idols of your disgusting practices, and because of the blood of your children, which you gave them. Therefore, look, I'm going to gather all your lovers to whom you have been so very nice, all of the ones you hate, right along with all the ones you love. I will gather them against you from all over the place and expose your private parts to them, so that they will see you completely naked. I will pronounce on you all the sentences that applies to a woman who commit adultery and murder. What is it about exposing private parts? Yeah, it's a strong image, but what is it telling about?
Vulnerability.
I'm going to show your shame. I'm going to show your disgusting practices. If you thought you were the only lover, sorry for you. I'm going to tell them all of your sins. Not only were you adulterous, but you were murderers. Listen to me, guys. If you don't know this already, there is an easy way of things. God has a way of bringing things that you do in the dark out in the light. If you think you're hiding it for a second, trust me, you're not hiding it from God. We've had so many cases of that. You think you're just getting away with it, and then He brings it out, and what is it? It's to your shame. Consider carefully who you represent when you open your mouth, when you do what you want to do, how you want to do it, when you want to do it. Consider the question, will this glorify my King, or will it bring this reputation to him? These questions we don't ask. We become souls. We worry more about what our friends think or what people are going to say than what our God thinks. Don't get stuck in that world. You will never please everyone. No one will ever be happy. I promise you that much. And especially even more so if you choose to do what's right. If you're in this walk because you want to feel popular, you're in the wrong walk. Just because we have 100 odd people here doesn't mean that this is the popular choice. This is most certainly not. When we started out with this walk, we were 6 people in a lounge at Uncle Bill's place. Then we were 4 people around the dining room table. God has been gracious enough to lift up a group of people and surround you with family and people that are like-minded, that you can lean on them when you need to make the right decisions. So you can see it's possible that I can act godly. It's possible. People out there just want to know that it's possible. As much as they give you stick about it, they want to know that there's someone that is taking it seriously. Be careful what you represent. I will bring on your death decreed for furious jealousy. Yes, I will hand you over to them and they will make a ruin. Oh, snap, let me just reverse that. A death for furious jealousy. Give me a priestly example of jealousy.
Two priests.
The spear.
Four, I think it is.
No, the guy with the spear.
Not Pinchas.
Pinchas.
That's zealousness. Korah was challenging for the priesthood. But what happens to a husband who believes that his wife is committing adultery but he doesn't have a witness?
You take the
Right,
the
and what do they do?
dust. You take the dust from.
He writes a curse on paper and he puts it in a cup with some water and he takes the very dust from the bottom of the Mishkan and he pours it in there and he says, swear before God. And the curse is that if you are guilty, you will get a distended womb. Now, we're not quite sure what that actually means in the Hebrew. It's a little bit of a funny place. Some people believe that God will close up the womb and they won't have any more kids. Other people believe that it's literally like a disembowelment moment where everything will just drop and the person will die. We don't know. Either way, in that culture, in that time, not a good thing, yes? You need a lot of chutzpah to be able to say, you tell me before your God right now, standing in the entrance of the Mishkan, and you're going to tell God that he didn't see what he saw. Now, if I come in and I have this spirit of jealousy that comes up, and I just can't put my finger in it because I believe I can go to the priest and I can ask God. Now, understand that's both protection for the husband and for the wife. How many of you have had to deal with jealous husbands, or seen jealous boyfriends, or even jealous girlfriends, or whatever the scenario is? They become completely controlling. It's very difficult for them to breathe, and they're continually just waiting for the person, and they actually start to drive people away. Now, this is at the case where you're sitting over there where you will be watching TV in your lounge and the husband will go to bed and then you'll come back and go, who are you waiting up for? I'm not tired, I'm watching TV. Oh, really? That's what I'm talking about.
Be on the couch.
Yeah. Switch on the lights, walk around the property, tell what. And then it starts to get a little bit of wait until I catch you. You were supposed to go to the shops, you had 15 minutes, you took 17 minutes.
Yes.
Where were you?
I will get a bloody punch card next time.
It gets bad, guys. If you haven't really seen this thing happen, trust me, I mean, you can, it's not a pretty thing. But to go set his mind at ease and stop that cycle of madness in their tracks, God steps in and he goes, ask her the question. Let me vindicate her. But if that comes upon him and he is right, you think you are hiding it from your husband. Your spiritual husband saw everything. This is what this portion is about. Jealousy. I will hand you over to them and I will make them a ruin of your platform. Tear down your high places, strip off your clothes, take away your jewels, leave you naked and exposed. They will also bring up a mob against you. They will stone you, who will stone you to death and hack you to pieces with their swords. That's pretty hectic. They will burn your houses to the ground and execute judgments against you in the presence of many women. I will make you stop fornicating and you will never again pay for a lover. Yes, I will satisfy my fury against you, but after that my jealousy will leave you and I will calm down and no longer be angry. That normally means a generation gap. Think of Israel in a timeline. They go and they play the harlot and they worship Baal and Asheroth and do all types of funny things and that. Sleep around, sacrifice their children. God comes down, uses Assyria and whoever, wipes them out or whatever, 40 years. Or in Judges, you see them come in, he puts them under bondage they're under bondage for 20 years and he gives them 40 years to rest thereafter. or the wilderness moment. Okay, 40 years, sometimes 40 years is how long most people lived in those times. Okay? So it's a cycle thing, so he doesn't punish the sins of the father to the son, but you have to deal with the consequences of it, right? Okay? But you didn't remember the condition you were in when you were young, but enraged with all these things, therefore I will bring the consequences of your ways on your own head, says Adonai Elohim. You're going to feel exactly what you wanted. You committed these obscenities in addition to all other disgusting practices. Everyone who quotes proverbs will quote this proverb against you, like mother, like daughter. Yes, you are your mother's daughter who despises her husband and children. You are your sisters of your sisters who despise their husbands and children. Your mother was a Hittite and your father an Amorite. Moreover, your older sister is Shomron, who lives at your left, and she as her daughters, and her younger sister lives at your right, Sodom with her daughters. You didn't merely live by their ways and act according to their disgusting practices, but in a very short time you acted more corruptly than they in all your ways. You are worse than Sodom and Gomorrah.
Suppose he's saying that they intermarried?
Not just intermarried, they're surrounded by Samaria, they're surrounded by Sodom and Gomorrah, and they were supposed to be a light to those, but instead of assimilating, or instead of bringing light to bring clarity of thought to them, they conformed. Right. Yeah, so think about it. Your friends are either becoming like you or you're becoming like them. Which one is it? Now, if you're dealing with godly people and you're hanging around with godly people, fine. Maybe you're becoming more godly. But most of the time, you're not. Now, if you're pandering to their drum beat, you're taking your anointing and you're throwing it down the toilet and you're becoming exactly like the world. Well done. You've just taken all the work and the death, burial, and resurrection of Christ and the emotion of the Ruach HaKodesh and taken that and stuck it under the pillow and you said, not today. I want to fit in. Guess what? He's going to keep on putting you into places and where you were supposed to shine, and if you keep on hiding your lamp, he's going to extinguish it. He will take it away. Because you're obviously not proud enough to belong to him. As I live, says Adonai Elohim, your sister Sodom has not done neither she nor her daughters as much evil as you have done. You and your daughters, as you and your daughters. Their crimes of the sister Sodom were pride and gluttony. Interesting, I remember when we deal with hospitality and those things, it's about money that Sodom got destroyed. She and her daughters were careless and complacent, so that they did nothing to help the poor and needy. Remember? Don't sleep into the public square. The story of Sodom and Gomorrah, you guys know what I'm talking about? Okay? They were arrogant and committed disgusting acts before me, so that I saw and I swept them away. Shomron did not even commit half as many sins as you did. You committed more disgusting acts than your sisters. In fact, in comparison with all the disgusting acts you have committed, they seem innocent. But you too must bear your disgrace. For by the passing judgment that your sisters were innocent, through you having committed sins worse than theirs, they are shown to be more righteous than you. So be ashamed and bear the disgrace you deserve by making your guilty sisters seem innocent. I will end their exile, the exile of Solomon and her daughters, the exile of Shomron and her daughters, the exiles of the captives who were among them, so that you can bear your own shame and experience your disgrace you deserve, for all you have done to shield them from fleeing their own guilt. Your sister Sodom with her daughters and Shomron with her daughters will return to their previous condition. You with your daughters will return to your previous condition. When you were so proud and you spoke with contempt about your sister Sodom, before your own wickedness were exposed. But now the daughters of Aram mock you, and so do the neighbors and the daughters of the Philistine on every side, are repulsed by you. You have brought it all on yourself with your depravities and your disgusting practices, says Adonai. For here is what Adonai Elohim says. I will do to you as you have done. You treated the oath with contempt by breaking the covenant. Nevertheless, I will remember the covenant I made with you when you were a girl, and will establish an everlasting covenant with you. Even though you took my covenant and treated it with contempt. And guys, you got to be careful. If you treat your, let's put it this way. So now you're married, right? Someone comes in there and they tell you, it's pretty silly. Let's use like a normal guy thing to say. You go and you're playing golf, and you're out there and your wife phones you, and you're hanging around with a bunch of worldly mates. Maybe it doesn't matter anyone that's married, or it doesn't matter. What's the first thing that they normally would chirp you? Let's be extravagant. What do guys say to guys when their wives phone? Ooh, she's cracking the whip now. You're in trouble, son. I'm gonna beat you, get you into submission. And what is the symbol of me being betrothed to this person that I said I would love forever and ever? What happens at that word? I take my ring off and I go, man, what does she know?
You.
I'm here with my boys. I can do whatever I want to do.
Not going to be married very long.
If I treat others to disrespect the things that God's love and are supposed to be my signs and my set apart things, how long will it take for them to disrespect the very things that God considers holy?
Mm-hmm. 2 seconds later.
Oh, so you're doing that Jewish thing again, eh? Yeah, you are, say, sure, you're stuck in that bondage and that horrific stuff. Yeah, it must be terrible to be you. Can't even eat bacon. Yo. And they don't understand what it means to be completely set apart and why you do the things that you do. Why would you rather be with your wife and celebrate your anniversary than out playing golf?
Because it matters more to me than playing golf.
Because even though I might enjoy golf, I remember the night, or I remember the day I made a covenant, and I had the privilege of taking that person into my life and saying that this beautiful creature becomes mine. No one else's. I have that privilege. And if you treat God's things in a worldly manner, everybody else will treat them in a worldly manner. You have the honor and the privilege to carry His signs. If not, what's the point of the relationship? Okay? Then you will remember your behavior and be ashamed of it as you receive your older and younger sisters and make your daughters, even though the covenant with you does not cover that. And I will reestablish my covenant with you. Then you will know that I am Adonai, so that you will remember and be so ashamed that you will never open your mouth again. So ashamed will you be when I have forgiven you all that you have done, says Adonai Elohim. Even though the covenant does not cover it, I'm going to take you back. Now I want you to go to a little interesting passage in Leviticus 26. Leviticus 26 verse 42. Alright, let me read from 30 to this 39 to give you some context. Those of you who remain will pine away in the lands of your enemies from your guilt over your misdeeds and those of your ancestors. Then they will confess their misdeeds of those and their ancestors which they committed against me in their rebellion. They will admit that they went against me. At that time I will be going against them, bringing them into the lands of their enemies. But if your uncircumcised hearts will grow humble, and they are paid the punishment for their misdeeds. Then I will remember my covenant with Yaakov, also my covenant with Yitzhak, and my covenant with Abraham, and I will remember the land. What did this chapter start with? Where were you born? In the land of the Amorrean and in the land of the Hittite. Right. There's an interesting thing about this in the Hebrew. I wish I had time to draw it out, but normally when you read about the covenant, who comes first? When you say, I'm the God, or I kept the covenant with who? Where did it start? Abram, Isaac, and Jacob. This is in reverse. Yaakov, Yitzhak, Abraham. Okay? Now something very interesting here is that when you look at it, Yaakov is spelled here with a vav. Only in this place. A little vav is a little strike. Okay? The letter vav. It's only ever spelled with a vav here in this little portion. And if you look at it, it kind of goes, basically it's about the return of the covenant. And it's got an interesting little balance when it talks about the symmetry between two sections of it. When you look at the Yaakov is the fourth word, and then when you look at Abraham, it's the fourth word from the beginning, and when you look at Abraham, it's the fourth word from the end. Yitzhak is in the middle. There are 28 letters from the beginning to Yitzhak. Yitzhak is the 8th word out of 16, so it's exactly in the middle. And thereafter, exactly 28 letters again. So if we look at the letters of the symmetry, you need 28 letters and 28 letters, and Yitzhak hinges in the middle. Now, what is it about Yitzhak and this extra vav that we have that God is trying to tell us?
Can it be linked with the menorah?
It's linked with the Mashiach. Okay. What is it about the promised son that he's trying to tell you?
The binding of Isaac.
Right. So if he's going to bring us back into the land, and he's going to bring us into this place, and he's going to remember the covenant even though it was not originally in a contract, and even forgive our harlotries. What about the promised son? There's an interesting little illustration. When you look at a weight, and I'm not going to take the time to get into the gematria of a weight. The weight comes down to the word shekel, which means stone. Right? What is the Hebrew for a stone? Yeah, kifa. The word is avben. Avben.
Son.
Eben. It's a contractualization between two words, father and son. Who was the stone? Sure. Who was the picture out of all the patriarchs that would become the promised son, who was bound, who was going to bring peace on Mount Moriah? It was Yitzhak. Carry on, you've got something over.
Yeah, so there's 28 generations from David to the Messiah as well. You mentioned 28.
Yes, 28 letters.
Yeah, so from David to the Babylonian exile is 14, and from Babylonian exile to the Messiah is another 14. That's 28.
Interesting. It's a funny thing that God makes illusion of coming back and return to the covenant in a place where everything about this return seems to hang about the promised son. Remember when it talks about Revelations where he's going to gather everybody back and bring them back into the land because of the covenant? Who's the one that's going to be doing the gathering? The promised son. And here it is written, sort of hidden in the midst of it, in the book of Vayikra, in the book of Leviticus. All right, that might have interested you, that might not have. Okay, all right? All right, you guys more or less happy on 17? Okay. 16 now. Let's go to 17. It's a little easier reading, really. But at least we're not going to be talking about harlotries. Alright. Yeah, we've got a completely different idea, but there is some very interesting pictures at the end that I want to get into. Okay. The word of Adonai came to me, human being, propound this riddle and tell the house of Israel this allegory. say that Adonai Elohim says this. A big eagle having great wings with long pinions full of varicolored feathers came to Lebanon and took off the top of the cedar. Okay, so big eagle, multicolored, comes and clips off the top of a cedar tree. Alright? He cropped off the topmost of its young twigs, carried them off to the land of the traders, and set it down in the city of the merchants. He also took some of the seed in the land and planted it in fertile soil, placing it where there was abundant water, and also, as one would a willow. So planted it by living waters. Use it, don't use it. It grew to be a fruitful vine sprawling over the ground. Its branches turned toward him, and its roots were under him. Thus it became a vine sprouting branches and putting forth shoots. I'm the vine, you are the branches. Another image. Use it, don't use it. There was another big eagle with great many feathers, and the vine bent its roots towards him and put forth its branches towards him, so that he might water it more than in the bed that it was planted. It had been planted in good soil near plenty of water, so that it would produce branches, bear fruit, and become a noble vine. Mm-hmm. All right, everybody confused? Mm-hmm. Jolly good. Eagles, first one takes the top of a cedar and some seed, carries it off into the land of merchants, plants the seed near living water. It becomes a vine, starts to flourish, sees another big eagle coming and reaches out to try and embrace that eagle. We're talking about two kings, okay? It's going to become self-explanatory, the Bible normally is, all right? But there's images that we need to look at as well. Say that Adonai Elohim asks, will it succeed? Won't he be pulled up by the roots and cut off its fruit, so that it dries up and all its sprouting leaves wither? There will be no great power and few people there if it is plucked up by its roots. Will it thrive just because it is planted? Won't it wither altogether when the east wind strikes it? Yes, it will wither right there in the beds where it is growing. The word of Adonai came to me. Say to the rebellious house, don't you know that what these things mean? Tell them, here the king of Babel came to Jerusalem, took its king and princes, and brought it to himself in Babel. So who's the first eagle? Babylon. Right. Nebuchadnezzar comes in and he takes the head of the Lebanon tree, the cedar. It's interesting. What was David's palace called, or Solomon's palace? They literally called it a forest because that's how much cedar there was in it. Right. It was something that you bought cedar because your house needed to be, if you wanted it to be bigger, you used to take the tallest trees. You can only build the span of what your wood is, right? But it's also about the aroma of the cedars. Okay? Remember, they were building a palace, and then there was like a tenty thing, and then they wouldn't really finish. Solomon's temple wasn't there, but Solomon's place was pretty decked out and apparently bigger than what the temple was. Then he took a member from the royal family and made a covenant with him, putting him under oath. So, they removed someone from David's palace. No. Jehoiakim comes up, puts him into thing, and then plants another one, made a royal family, puts Zedekiah into power. He removed the powerful leaders of the land so that the kingdom of this would stay humble and not develop aspirations of its own. Rather, it would keep his covenant and live accordingly. Zedekiah was put there and they were told to pay tribute as a vassal nation. He was pro-Babylon. It was supposed to work out just fine. But this man rebelled and sent representatives to Egypt. When I say pro-Babylon, I wasn't happy for the thing, but he was put into power because of Babylon, so therefore it made it pro, okay? In order to obtain horses and a sizable army, can he succeed? Can someone who does these things escape punishment? Can he break the covenant and still escape punishment? As I live, says Adonai Elohim, in the place where the king gave him Israel lives, whose oath he despised and whose covenant he broke, there with him in Babel I swear that he will die. Pharaoh, with his mighty army and numerous troops, will give him no help in the war when they raise siege works and build fortified towers to destroy many people, because he despised the oath by breaking the covenant which he had sworn allegiance. having done all these things, he will not escape unpunished. So who's the second eagle? Pharaoh. Okay? Therefore Adonai Elohim says this, or says, as I live, I swear that it is my oath he has despised, and my covenant he has broken. And I will bring this on his own head. I will spread my net over him, and he will be caught in my snare. I will bring Babel and bring him to judgment there for breaking faith with me. Their troops among his forces will die by the sword, and those who survive will be scattered to every wind. Then you will know that I am Adonai, that I, Adonai, have said it. Okay, so they reached out to Pharaoh. Apparently, Lachish, they found some letters. They're thinking at the time that they said, a guy by the name of Coniah, son of Elnathan, commander of the army, has gone down on his way to Egypt. It's a possible link, I think might be from a slightly different time, but anyway, they looked for him to help. That was probably Syria, but people aren't sure. The Pharaoh at the time was Psammetichus II. So they believed, as they always did with Babylon and Mesopotamia and those guys in Assyria coming down, if we get the Pharaoh involved, he can come up and he can save us. What's the problem with that logic?
Depending on man.
Right. I'm swapping one bondage or one king for another.
Then come back to what they know.
Right. Adonai Elohim says, from the top of the tall cedar, from its highest branch, I will take a shoot and plant it myself on a high and prominent mountain. I will plant it on the highest mountain in Israel, where it will put out its branches and bear fruit and become a noble cedar. Planted on the highest mountain of Israel. Where's the highest mountain in Israel? Mount Hermon. Now, someone who is part of the cedar, David's lineage, goes up to Mount Hermon.
Isn't it Mount Transfiguration?
Yeshua went up to what we believe is Mount Hermon, and he was transfigured before some of his disciples, and he certainly had a discussion with Moses and Elihu and Eliyahu or Eliah, and he says they were discussing what? The Passover that is to come. Isn't it ironic that he's talking about an exodus from Egypt, and he's talking about them relying on Egypt at the same time here?
Mm-hmm.
So he's going to take him, he's going to plant him on the highest point in all Israel, and he's going to make him fruitful. He's going to stand tall and upright. Under it will live all kinds of birds, winged creatures, and every description will live there in the shadow of its branches.
Isn't that now linked to the weed, to the kingdom of heaven?
The kingdom of heaven, the seeds. Remember, the mustard seed will be thrown down and it'll become a tree bigger than what it ever could possibly be. And it would become shelter for the birds of the air. Isn't that an interesting little thing? What was about, again, the mustard seed was?
A weed.
Not just a weed. What was the point of a mustard seed? What was he saying? Faith. If you believe, the seemingly impossible nothing of nobody can become something of this sort of description. Okay? Now listen to the next thing. All the trees of the field will know that I, Adonai, will bring down the tall trees and rise up the low tree, wither the green tree, and make the withered tree bear fruit. I, Adonai, have spoken, and I will do it. New Testament reference for the green tree.
Fig tree?
No. No.
There's so many trees.
Yeah, talking about it. He doesn't name it. He calls it a green tree.
Do you know they cut down every green tree?
This
Break
is-
down every high place.
Yeah. Hold on to your seats. This is quite deep. Okay. As the Roman soldiers led Yeshua, I'll tell you after, led Yeshua away and grabbed hold of the man from Cyrene named Shimon, who was on his way in from the country. They put the execution stake on his back and made him carry it behind Yeshua. Large numbers of the people followed, including women crying and wailing over him. Yeshua turned to them and says, daughters of Jerusalem, don't cry for me. Cry for yourselves and for your children. For the time is coming when the people will say, the childless women are the lucky ones. Those whose wombs have never borne a child, whose breasts have never nursed a baby. Then they will begin to say to the mountains, fall on us, into the hills, cover us. For if they do these things when the wood is green, what is going to happen when it is dry? Luke 23:31. Listen to what he said. Then all the trees of the field will know I bring down the tall trees and raise up the low tree. The leaders are going to be brought down. The lowest of us are going to be lifted up. He was called a man with affliction and dealing with Isaiah 53. They will wither the tree and make the withered tree bear fruit. He's looking at them and he's saying, look, I'm the righteous, and I'm going to be exalted. But they're drying him out. If they're going to destroy and burn up a tree while it's green, what do you think it's going to do when they do to you? You who are already dry and dead. He says, you mourn for me when you should be mourning for yourselves. Because when he returns, the righteous will stand. He will become and be established on that mountain. Yes?
Yes.
Interesting link, right? So he's just not saying, let's not talk about this green tree. He's saying, there's a time of my return, there's a time of establishing the kingdom of heaven, there's a time of him coming, and he will be put in his proper place, and he will take control of everything that he was promised. I, Adonai, have spoken it, and I will do it.
It's just again, it's a picture of God doing the impossible.
Absolutely. He has his agenda, and he's going to bring the covenant back, and he's going to remember the land, and he's going to remember the covenant, even though it wasn't linked in, and he's going to establish the tallest of David's tree. And he's going to plant it by streams of living waters. It's going to become a vine that's going to reach up, a vine and branches. I'm the vine, you are the branches. Whoever is planted by me by streams of living water, they will not grow weary. He's pulling imagery right out of Ezekiel. Right? And he's trying to give them illustrations. I put you there. I will prosper you. I will do this for a time. Get you to the place where you will understand who God is. And then again, it's going to bring us back to Leviticus 26, when it's all about the promised son. Okay? All happy? Jolly good. All right. Prayer time is happy time. You can put it off. Pray. You want to pray with us, man? No, I don't know. Father, we just thank you for your teaching. Father, we thank you for this word, Lord Father, and we just pray that you would just guide us, Lord. Lead us, Lord Father, convict us. If we need conviction, Lord Father, to be able to walk in a way, Lord Father, that will reflect your glory. Father, you have clothed us in your righteousness, you have redeemed us, Lord Father, you have covered us in jewelry as your love befits, as you have covered us and immersed us in your Ruach HaKodesh, Lord Father, the gifts for the bride. Father, we have been clothed with purity, with, like I said, righteousness and redemption, Father. You have put our feet, Lord Father, sure-footed, Lord Father, and we may walk in peace in our halakha. Abba, may we use these gifts, Lord Father, to further your kingdom. May we walk and remember where you picked us up from, Lord Father, and not become haughty or arrogant, Lord Father, but understand that it is because of your love, your grace, your mercy, Father, that you want to call us your own, that you bring us into that position, Lord Father. And we pray, Lord Father, that we will reflect you as befitting a bride of Christ, Lord Father. That as we belong to you and we have taken on your name, Father, that we will reflect you, and it would be a joy, Father, to say, this is my beloved. That we would not disrupt or sully your name, oh Father, but bring glory to it every opportunity that we can. Help us, Father, walk in a way that would bring you glory, edify your kingdom, expand your kingdom, so that your name would be glorified and not our own. We just give you glory. In Yeshua's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Okay. What's up, bro?